Only live. We are live. Hey, we made it. So funny how live show have some technical aspect also to it. So cool to have you, everyone. Please gather. You have full place in the virtual room. Yes, I'm Caroline. Welcome to another episode of the Puppet Podcast. And yes, I do this show with a lot of passion and enthusiasm. I know it's a lot of stuff to here, but I know that you enjoy it, so that's why I keep this mood, because I feel we need to bring the follow spot on puppetry, and we need to bring this passion to the world. So that's why we do the Puppet Podcast. So tonight we are so lucky because we connect with someone from the US. Here is Julie Dansby. I pronounce it in French, but Julie is in the virtual studio with me. But before we go into the interview, I just want to let you know some cool stuff that we organizing as the Puppet Podcast. We organize workshop, and we have at this address, Patreon, our Patreon, we have a workshop coming on Sunday in the morning if you are east. It's really early if you're in California area, but it will be with Satyajit. Yes, Satyajit, who is a famous ventriloquist in India, who will share his knowledge about ventriloquism. And yes, we will talk about those tricks and how we can do puppetry without moving the mouth. I'm so curious about that. I haven't done ventriloquism in my life, so let's try it to do something really interesting with Satyajit on Sunday. So that was a commercial. So now, please, everyone, if you are watching, feel free to write into the comment, like just be interacting with us. We love to have some questions, to have some comment, to know from where you are watching, because that's the magic of live show. So everyone, that's the time for the drum roll to, yes, welcome in the screen the wonderful Julie Dansby.
Hi. Hi. How are you, Carol?
I'm really good, and you?
Good. Good. Yeah,
I,
I'm trying to get my lighting right, but I don't think I can get it right where I need to be. But that's okay.
yeah. So let me put my headphones. I feel it will be better with this.
Move over a little bit. There we go.
Yeah, that's the technicality of it. So
I know.
so funny, because we have I need to tell a bit the audience what's happening. We were struggling with the camera and the mic, and it was funny
I
because Julie worked in Disney, and I was hearing a mic with a funny voice as a puppetry maybe you do in Disney. So cool to get the chance to connect a bit late, but we are there for the live. It's perfect.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you. So Julie, I always ask the puppeteer to introduce himself or herself to the crowd who are watching. So it's kind of a challenge to do, to introduce and to say from where we come. And so I want you to do that. So could you?
Sure. My name is Julie Dansby, and I have been a puppeteer professionally since 1998. So that's what, 22 years, 23
Yeah.
years? No. Ooh. But I started in puppetry earlier than that. I started when I was about 12 years old. But most of my career in puppetry was at the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if you've ever been or visited, but it's a wonderful, wonderful place. It just celebrated an anniversary, I think either yesterday or today. Jim Henson, cut the ribbon in 1978 to open the Center for Puppetry Arts. Vincent Anthony was the executive director and was there for many, many, many years, only recently retired. And it was an incredible place to work. I was there for almost 15 years. My first several years there was as a resident puppeteer. So I was there just doing shows, and I helped briefly in the puppet shop once. I'm not a builder, so that was not that was a wonderful education. But I most of the time I was there just as a performer, as a puppeteer.
Yeah.
And then in 2004, I was there as a resident puppeteer just year after year after year. They just continued to hire me. We had a really wonderful relationship. And then in 2004, the head puppeteer moved away, and they put me into the position of head puppeteer. So I was head puppeteer from 2004 until I moved from Atlanta in 2012. And I moved to come down to Florida to be closer to my family. And eventually I actually taught drama for 4 years in middle school.
Oh.
And I know but we use puppets. I had a good time doing puppet units with them. And I still do workshops in schools and with teachers about puppetry and how to use puppets in their classroom. And then then eventually I ended up at Disney, working as a puppeteer and performing there. So, and there I got the opportunity to work with several shows, including the Voyage of the Little Mermaid show, and my favorite show of all, the Great Moments, the Muppets Present Great Moments in American History, which is no longer running, but is supposedly a seasonal offering. So maybe they'll bring it back. But that was at Magic Kingdom in Liberty Square, with Sam Eagle and the Muppets telling some stories about American history, which they didn't exactly get right. And then everything went to chaos, and then everybody, loved it. So it was really a lot of fun. But I think my years at the Center for Puppetry Arts were really my major puppet education. Eventually at Disney, I'm now classified as a puppet specialist. So, but I haven't really done a lot in that role because the pandemic hit and the parks shut down for a while, and then they've been kind of slow to reopen entertainment because it requires people to sit together in a theater, as we all know. So, but yeah, I'm back there now, and hopefully we'll be doing some more puppet stuff soon. But in addition to working as a puppeteer, just doing puppets, I've also led workshops. I had the privilege of leading a workshop at the O'Neill National Puppet Conference back in 2009 on tabletop puppetry, and I also have done several tabletop puppetry workshops at the National Puppet Festival through the Puppeteers of America. So those things have been amazing and really fun. And yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah, in a fast way to express all you have done, but it's quite a journey in your career that you get the chance to work with so many people and do workshop and bring your knowledge to the world. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and like I said, when I came to the Center for Puppetry Arts, I only knew hand and rod puppetry because that's the only kind that I had done previously. But working there, they do everything that can be called a puppet. So I did everything from teeny tiny shadow puppets on an overhead projector, all the way up to gigantic dinosaur body puppets that were like 11, 12 feet tall. So it was everything, and I just learned so much, and I really became in love with tabletop rod puppetry because we did a lot in the Czech Black theater style with puppets and on tabletops, and I learned working in an ensemble in that way, 2 and 3 puppeteers on a puppet creating one character, and I found that was really a style that I just loved. So that's what I teach a lot, because a lot of people know hand and rod style, and they know lip sync, and they know eye focus and those kind of basics, and those they apply across different styles of puppetry. But I think something a little unusual is to American audiences anyway, is to teach this style of tabletop rod. So and it's really good because a lot of organizations, they want team building exercises and various things like that, and that's exactly what it is. It's like everybody has to work together to make one puppet come to life.
Yeah.
And if someone falls down on their job, then the whole thing doesn't work. So So yeah, it's great.
It's really cool. And we have people who are watching from people that you know, I think. We have Valerie. Yeah, say hi, my
Hi, Valerie.
friend. Yeah, Valerie, she miss you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I miss her too.
And she asked a question. This is really interesting. Did you go to school to become a puppeteer? That's part of also the question I asked, but that's good that it came from the audience.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to know that too.
I actually did not go to school specifically to be a puppeteer. There's not a whole lot of places in the United States that you can do that. You can do it at the University of Connecticut, and Cal Arts also has some puppet programs, and it's the University of West Virginia, I think, also has a strong puppetry program. But most places, I went to school for theater, just for theater in general. So um, musical theater was kind of my thing. I'm also a singer, so I did a lot of musical theater, but I did not go to school specifically for puppetry, but I went to school for drama and acting and theater, and it's all, part of that theatrical art.
Yeah, because I have one of the deep question of the Puppet Podcast is about the field of study. So let me ask you, what's the best field of study, in your opinion, to become a puppeteer?
I would say, definitely the theater arts, movement arts, especially. I had a pretty strong background in mime. One of my teachers, when I went to graduate school, I went to graduate school at the University of Georgia, and one of my teachers, John Ammerman, had studied in France under Marcel Marceau.
Yeah.
And he brought that back to us. And I remember a lot of my classmates, at the time, when I was growing up, mime was really actually quite popular. You'd see Shields and Yarnell on TV, or you'd see Marcel Marceau on I remember seeing him on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and just being mesmerized by his performances. And but then it kind of fell out of fashion, and it became something, mime became something that people made fun of, and but so my classmates, were kind of like, I don't know about studying mime, kind of thing. They want to do, Shakespeare, and they're graduate students in theater. But I loved it. And I remember specifically coming out of class one day, and one of my classmates she thought it would offend me. She's like, I don't want this to offend you, but I think you're really good at this stuff. and so, and I think learning mime and knowing those kind of more classical techniques of mime, using movement to tell a story, really translates almost, one-to-one directly into puppetry. It's using movement to tell a story. Of course, a lot of puppets talk as well, but the really good ones, use either movement and vocals, or just movement. I love stuff that's just purely a story told with movement, and because that can translate over all languages, through different cultures sometimes. And so I think my background in mime really helped me. And then oddly enough, I think a good background in physics helps with puppetry. I know a lot of marionette artists and things will tell you, you need you have to know balance, you have to know all this when you're creating a puppet. But even in the movement of the puppet, if you want your puppet to be believable, now of course puppets can do anything because puppets, and that's part of the fun of them. But if you want, if you have a character that's supposed to be sort of in a real world setting, having it obey the laws of physics is, paramount to your technique. Because if you have a puppet, I'm gonna use an example here. Now this is, I was gonna bring this up later. This is a puppet design that I actually make in a tutorial video. I made it for the Kennedy Center. But it's based on a design by a Rogue Puppet Ensemble. It's just a really simple way to make a tabletop rod puppet.
Yeah.
It's newspaper and craft sticks and masking tape, and that's all you need. And you can make a full figure puppet. Is it beautiful? No, but it's serviceable to learn. And I use it a lot. You make them a lot for workshops and stuff like that. If you're traveling, and you don't want to bring a giant suitcase full of puppets, or I don't even have really a lot of puppets of my own because I was always working at somewhere that had the puppets. Disney has their own puppets. You know, the Center for Art, Puppetry Arts made their own puppets. So I didn't have a lot of puppets that I could just like, I want to do a tabletop rod workshop. Well, I can fly there. I can have some craft sticks and newspaper in my suitcase, and then I can, you know, construct, you know, puppets before my workshop. So anyway, but you have to, with a puppet like this, you have to obey. If you're not obeying the laws of physics, if your center of gravity of your puppet is not over your base, you know, and your puppet's standing like that, you know, unless he's Michael Jackson in the Smooth Criminal video, you go, that's wrong. You know, anybody watching that, you don't have to be a professional puppeteer or have puppetry experience. You can go, that thing should fall down because of the laws of physics. Yeah. So knowing those laws of physics, knowing, okay, my center of gravity has to be over my base, otherwise that thing is going to fall over. That's, you know, simple physics. Plus, you know, puppet technique as far as movement communication, you know, you have laws like, you know, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So, you know, like if you know, you react back or you go back to go forward, you know, those kind of little technique things that are really based in the physics of the actual world. Now they're heightened with a puppet because it's stylized, and you know, you have to use the movement and catch people's attention in a slightly different way to make it to make the movement communicate in the way you need to. But a lot of that is, you know, the laws of physics just kind of magnified a little bit. I use an example a lot in my workshops where, like, if you have a ball, right, and you want to send the energy this way, if you just go that way, the ball is going to fall. But if you go back first and then go that way, then the ball has some energy behind it. And it's the same thing with puppet movement. If you want your puppet movement to have meaning and energy, you know, if you just go forward, it doesn't have the same impact as going, I'm going to go forward. You know what I mean? That sort of back to go forward. Yeah. So those kind of little puppet techniques. And they're also in mime too, that you don't just do the movement, you do something that's a little bit more stylized, and it brings it to life in a different way, and it communicates in a different way. Yeah. So I use a lot of examples straight out of physics. Yeah. When I'm teaching puppetry. Yes. If your puppet doesn't look right, then, or isn't obeying the laws of physics, it takes people out of the believability of it. Suddenly they're going, oh, well, I don't believe it's alive or real because it's standing all wonky. So, you know, that's kind of the first step, is to make your puppet look believably real as a real thing in the real world and have it obey those laws of physics. Yes, that's so good. It's a great, like, it's kind of, we got a little crash course at the same time. And yes, the audience is really like mesmerized about that. We have Rubina who say there is beauty in simplicity. I love this. Absolutely. And, you know, that even simple things communicated, you know, in that manner can connect with any audience. You know, there's a universality to puppets that connects across borders and across cultures in a lot of ways. And, you know, one of the things that we all experience is the laws of physics. We all fall down. Totally. You know, so if things look like they should fall down, then people are not going to be as engaged in your puppet show, because they're going to go, I don't believe that thing. But if you know, the puppeteers who really know how to use those techniques and make sure that their puppet looks believable in the real world, then, you know, we're along for the ride. We're along for the story. You know, nothing's there that's going to jolt us out of it. Yes, Rubina, I agree with that. She was saying this. So this is so interesting. I love it because it's technical at the same time. Then it's with style, as you said. it's art and science. I think puppetry marries the two in a lot of ways. You know, talk to any puppet builder. I mean, a lot of it is science principles, you know, put to work to make a mechanism, or to make a, you know, to make the right kind of design for the puppeteer's hand, or what have you. So, you know, science and art are married very well in puppetry. Yes. So I have another deep question for you, Julie. Yes. I want to know your crush moment, because
we have everyone an anecdote where we saw a puppet or we understand that we want to do that. So do you
Yes.
have something like this?
It's kind of twofold. I think a lot of people, a lot of puppeteers, my age and, a little bit younger, Sesame Street was my first exposure to puppetry.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Our PBS station aired Sesame Street twice a day. It was on in the morning and in the afternoon. It was the exact same episode every day. So the same episode that aired at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever would air it again at 3 in the afternoon. I watched, as a preschooler, I watched both shows. I would watch it twice. And I remember my mother was very confused because she's like, Julie, you're a smart kid. You already know all your letters and your numbers. She couldn't understand why I was so mesmerized by this show and that I would watch it the same episode twice in one day. But I think as I look back on it, I was mesmerized by those characters and the way they moved and their just everything about them just appealed to me. Their humor, their personalities, everything. And I think, taking that with me later on when I started to learn puppetry myself, I remembered those techniques. I knew what puppets were supposed to look like because I'd seen that on television. I'd seen, Jim Henson and Frank Oz really make those characters alive. And so when I started to do it myself, I started to mimic those techniques to make those characters look as alive as I could.
Yes.
So, but the first time I ever really did puppets myself, I was about 12, and I was always dramatic. I always loved singing and dancing and performing. I was always that kid that was putting on a show. But I got to a place, we'd moved around a lot. My dad was military, and we got to a place where there was no theater where I was. My school didn't have a theater program. There was no arts. But the church that we were going to had a puppet team. This was in the 80s, and those were really popular in the US and churches. And I was like, well, I like puppet, and they were hand and rod Sesame Street style puppets. And I was like, I know how this works. I watched enough Sesame Street and Muppet Show to know how these are supposed to look. So I worked with that group for 3 years and just loved it. And then that's kind of later on when I went, I did my theater education, but then I moved back to Atlanta, and I saw that the Center for Puppetry Arts was having auditions. And I was like, well, I worked with puppets for 3 years, and, the worst they can say is no thanks, when you go to an audition. Yeah. So that was one of the luckiest moments of my life, because I went to that audition and they hired me. And not only did they hire me for one show, they hired me for 3 for the whole season right away. They were trying something kind of new, hiring puppeteers for the season. And then I just stayed. I just loved it so much, and I learned so much that I just stayed.
Yay, that's so perfect as a journey, and to have a place to learn at the same time. But let me ask you your why. Like, what makes the art of puppetry an art that you cherish?
I think because the art of puppetry is the art of making a new life, which is, it is part of the puppeteer. It's part of the puppeteer's imagination, and part of the puppeteer's creativity. But even for the puppeteer, his or herself, and for the audience, it's like there's something new. There was just an object there a moment ago, but now there's something else that's alive in this room. Like we made a life. It's Frankenstein, it's that, but, and I think about that a lot. And I think how, we have all these phrases in our vernacular, like, life is good. Or, you think about the creation story in the Bible, how, God looked at the life and he said, this is good. And I think there's something in us as a human race that sees life as something good, like when someone announces they're having a baby, most of the time people are excited about that, or, everybody loves puppies and kittens, and new life just brings that joy and delight. And, when a puppeteer brings a puppet to life, suddenly, look, we created a new life in the room, and that's exciting and fun. And, everybody comes along for the ride.
Yes, it's so interesting, and with a lot of like positivity. I feel it's really right. I
I
love that.
I
So
yeah, I think one of the things about puppets that's so wonderful is I think they have a unique way of just being delightful.
yeah,
Bringing a a core sense of joy that speaks to the very. I mean, even like a baby, if you put a puppet in front of an infant, they'll laugh and giggle and engage. I mean, there's something inside us that just really loves to see that, and
yeah.
and it makes us happy.
That's so true. That's so true. That life inspire, and
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
their puppets can be so funny in really wonderful ways, and they speak to us in our as humans. They speak to our humanity, um, and I just love that.
Yeah, I feel your passion. This is amazing. And the crowd is feeling it too. We have question, and this is interesting. We have Julio who asks how to keep the positive energy in a place as wonderful as Disney, which actually sound obvious, but one can get used to the magic.
That's really, I totally understand where you're coming from, Julio. I Because a lot of times when you're working in a place like Disney, a theme park, um, you're doing the same show every day, sometimes 8 or 9 times a day. And it can get very rote, and it can get
Yeah,
very like, oh, well, here I'm clocking into work. I'm gonna, make my magic and then clock in and leave. And I find, and it was kind of, similarly at the Center for Puppetry Arts, we would run a show, 13 shows a week for, 6 to 8 weeks off, sometimes more than that. And I think when I ended my career there, they had like a little going away party for me, and someone actually added up the number of performances I had been in, including, all family shows and some of the adult shows that I'd done, all the shows that I'd done there. And there was almost 5,000. So I had almost performed 5,000 shows. It wasn't all the same show, but you
no,
know,
but
doing this show over and over and over and over and over every day. How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep that magic alive?
yeah,
And I think one of the techniques that I have to think about and is I have to remember that the story I'm communicating, I might have seen it 1,000 times, but that kid in the third row has never seen it at all. And I have to communicate this story clearly and with joy and passion and, and creativity and spark to that kid, or that adult or that person, so you have to. And I mean, working in the parks, a lot of times I go out in the park itself sometimes, just to see it from a guest perspective again, just to go, wow, this place is really cool. I work in a really cool, wonderful place that has a lot of positive energy. And, just to remind myself, and then I can put that back, backstage with me, and just to say, I cherish this, this is something that's really special. And a lot of people travel a long ways and pay a lot of money to be here. And there's a reason. And so, you just have to kind of remember that what you're doing is really cool. And even if you're doing it for the 857th time, it's still really cool. And it's really cool to that person who for them, it's the first time.
yes. It's really a mind shift that you need to keep all the time. It's
Yeah.
so interesting. We have also Valerie who asked, what is some advice you would have in giving your puppet personality and a voice?
Well, that's a great question. Not all puppets speak. So you have to decide, okay, does this puppet have a voice or does it not? So if you want to go down to the basics, you want to start with the movement of the character, because all puppets move. In my opinion, that's the primary way a puppet communicates, is through movement. Even if it does talk, it's the way it positions its body, the way it uses its head, the way it uses its arms, if you have arm rods. All of those things communicate the personality of the character and the emotion of the moment and the story. So I think I would start with with the puppets movements, and see, what does it communicate if I tilt the head this way? What does it mean One of the phrases we used at the Center for Puppetry Arts all the time was, does this look like anything? Like puppet in a certain way. And sometimes the puppeteer's perspective on it is different. So you're yelling out to somebody like, does this look like anything? Does this look right to you? So, you're trying to get that perspective on, when you have a certain movement or a certain posture or a certain rhythm, what does that mean? And I think a lot of the personality in the movement comes in with sort of a rhythm and an energy level.
Uh-huh.
When I do workshops, I use the characters in the Winnie the Pooh stories a lot because they have such a lovely spectrum of energy. You go from characters like Tigger, who is on the very high energy. I mean, hopefully your audience can understand these characters because not all cultures know them. But Tigger is the bouncing tiger, and he's like all kinetic energy. I'm going to go back to my physics here, but like he's expended energy. He's just this kinetic energy. And then on the other end of the spectrum of energy in physics is potential energy or stored energy that's not expended. So then on that end you have Eeyore, who's very slow, low to the ground, not expending energy. And then the other characters, one of the fun exercises I like to do is to kind of have my students place the other characters on the spectrum where they think they go. Are they more a high energy character or are they more a low energy character? So I'd say as you're developing your own characters, kind of think about where would they fall in the energy spectrum? Are they high energy all the time? Are they really hyperactive, or are they more low energy, or are they a parent that would have more of a nurturing, calming energy? Where do they fall on that energy spectrum? And maybe do they have any specific signature movements that go along with their personality? Like if you think of like Miss Piggy with Frank Oz, she's, doing the hair flipping thing or those kind of movements that go, this is, when you see it and you go, this looks like something my character would do, or, it kind of with you and like, that's it. That's the character. So, and then with voices, if you decide that your character has a voice, a lot of it for me is just placement, where, like at the Center for Puppetry Arts, because we weren't seen, I could do, sometimes we were, I'll have to do it again, because we did lots of different styles. But if we were not seen, I could play any kind of character. I mean, I could play a male character. I didn't have to play females all the time. So a lot of times, like I had a elephant, and his name was Oliver, and he had a very low voice, and he wasn't the brightest, but he's very sweet. And so I placed him way back in my throat and opened my throat. And one of the greatest honors of my life was when I came back, after I'd gone away from the center in 2012. I came back in 2015 for the opening of the new Henson wing, because I wanted to be there for that. And all over the new museum, there were these icons with Oliver, the elephant, on them, which was the character that I had originated in the original version of Cinderella Della Circus. But that's like became sort of the symbol of the center, and it became a symbol like for whenever the kids in the museum was kind of interactive. So if you went up to an exhibit that had an interactive element, it would have this little symbol of Oliver, the elephant, on it. And I saw that, and my heart just went, because I miss it so much. And when I left a job like that just was so much a part of you, you really miss it. It leaves a hole in your heart. And when I came and I saw that, I was like, I'm still here. A part of me, a part of a character that I created is still here, helping, audience members every day to interact with puppetry. And that was so heartwarming. But yeah, I would place his voice way down here. And then, a lot of my characters were sort of motherly, maternal characters. So those would be kind of in a mid-range. And then
sometimes like I had a lot of nasally characters. I did this rat character who had kind of this New York nasally accent. He was kind of abrasive and not really very nice, but he had his lovable moments too. But he was a little more prickly, certainly more prickly than Oliver. But just finding those placements, whether it's way up high or way down low or somewhere in the middle, and finding that
that placement that really goes, yep, that's that character. Or an accent, figuring out. In fact, when I was doing the rat, I was like, oh, it's that accent. Or I did a clown character who was kind of scary and obnoxious, trying to be friendly. It was this, funny, weird, and the way a lot of people feel about clowns. They're like, they're trying to be friendly, but they're so scary. But she was more of a Clarabelle cow. She had a really wide voice that was kind of in the middle, but would squeak up a lot. And so just playing with your own voice and seeing where it goes and what kind of character it gives you the idea of, or just looking at your puppet and going, trying different voices and seeing the one that sort of fits.
Yeah, that's such a good advice. I really enjoy it. It's kind of a lot of inspiration for work, and it's great. But let me ask you also about your goals. We are almost at the end of the interview, but I want to.
Sorry, I know I've talked too much.
No, it's so perfect. But I want to hear you on your goals, for the future. What you want to accomplish as a puppeteer, or do you have a dream, something you envision?
I think it's very simple. I just want to stay being a puppeteer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Feeling like that is kind of the definition of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing it professionally. Right now, my opportunities to do it professionally kind of vary. Sometimes when I was at Disney and we were doing puppet shows every day, great. When I was in the Center for Puppetry Arts, we were doing puppet shows every day, great. Now sometimes I'll do a video project, with a company down here called Michelee Puppets. And, that's just 2 or 3 days here and there, but it's still, connecting me with puppets. So I think, I don't have lofty goals to be some great shakes on the puppet stage or in video puppetry, but I just want to continue doing what I want to continue doing puppetry.
Yeah.
And whatever opportunities may fall my way. I'm looking in the next few months here. I'm slated to do a project with Michelee and the Orlando Opera.
Oh, wow.
They're doing a brand new opera, staging a premiere, and they want to include a puppet in that. So those kind of artistic challenges are very exciting.
That's so cool. That's true that you can accept some challenge, but at the same time to keep going, persisting in one direction is really powerful, and it's a good goal.
Right. I just want to always be able to go, I'm a puppeteer.
Yeah.
That's part of how I define who I am. And however I express that, I just want to be a puppeteer. That's all.
Yes, that's so perfect to name it like this. And it's funny because it's attracting attention. So we have Rob from Australia who said that it's so informative. So all you said, it's so great. And in French, Nancy says super, bravo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. And Julie, we are almost at the end. I want you to plug all your social media. If people want to reach you, want to ask questions, where they should look, or if they want to know more of your work, where they should go.
Okay, well, I am on both Instagram and Facebook as Julie Dansby. I'm just Julie Dansby on Facebook, and on Instagram it's Julie_Dansby.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, I'm sorry, on Instagram it's Julie_Dansby on Instagram. So you can, now that's a lot more personal stuff, but I also, with the Kennedy Center, the video that I made for them, where you can learn how to, I teach how to make one of these tabletop rod simple newspaper puppets. That is part of a series that they do called Teaching Artists Present. So if you go to kennedycenter.org, it's Kennedy and then with a hyphen center.org, and look under their Teaching Artists Present series. That you can find my video. It's called Creating Newspaper Puppets, I think. But I'll also put the link to that in my Instagram bio.
Yeah.
So if he's interested, they can go there, and if they want to make their own little newspaper tabletop puppets, you can find me there. And I have a few things on YouTube as well, you know, with me talking about puppets, kind of like this.
Yeah, that's perfect because you are full of resource. I feel your background in mime and singing and everything is bringing something really important into
I'm also on TikTok. Just to have fun, really.
Yeah.
I use a lot of like very simple sock puppets with my TikToks. This is the lamb that I use a lot. And I just make stupid puns using the word you. So I find just any song that strikes my fancy that has you in it, and then I sing it with the lamb and make it silly. So it's just, but on TikTok, I'm known as Puppetrix. So Puppetrix, Puppetrix on TikTok.
That's perfect. And yeah, we have Steve Axtell who say, hi, Julie.
Hi, Steve.
So cool. It's a small world, eh? And Rubina asked maybe about your YouTube channel. Are you on YouTube?
I am on YouTube. I do have a channel. Some of it is puppet related, and some of it is me singing with my kids. So, but if you're interested in that, yes, my YouTube channel is under Julie Scarborough.
Okay.
So I use both names sometimes. So yeah, Julie, and then last name. That one, the last name is spelled Scarboroughh. Scarborough, like Scarborough, like Scarborough Fair.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think we will all have a look on this. And we have Tina who say, love your idea. Thank you for sharing. So Julie,
thank you, Tina.
Yeah, I think we really appreciate this moment, and yeah, it's live and we live that together, and this is so wonderful.
Thank you. No, this has been amazingly fun, and I love to talk about puppets like this. So in case it didn't come through, but so yeah, I've had a wonderful time. Thank you so much, Carol.
Yes, I appreciate your presence. You are really a great communicator. So yeah, we have many stuff popping on the chat. Like some of your work is available through the Puppetry Arts. Still, some video.
Yes, still videos. For a while they sold them on DVD when that was a thing. But yeah, they can stream. You can stream them on Vimeo. But yeah, a lot of Center for Puppetry Arts shows that contain my work are up there on Vimeo through the Center for Puppetry Arts. So there's Weather Rocks, I know, is up there, which is a fantastic science show about weather, very overt puppetry, very fun. Our dinosaurs show is up there. The version of Beauty and the Beast we did, which is really cool. It's found object puppets set in kind of a junkyard. So like the trash becomes something beautiful. It's awesome. Most of these are for John Ludwig shows. And he's amazing. He's been the artistic director there for many, many years, and definitely one of my inspirations. But yeah, those, and Tall Tales, American Tall Tales, which is a sort of several different stories all woven together in different styles, uses some fantastic shadow puppetry to tell the story of John Henry, and stories of like Pecos Bill and Paul Bunyan and stuff. These are sort of traditional American stories.
So let's have a look, everyone, on that. And yes,
you can find those on Vimeo through the Center for Puppetry Arts.
Yeah. So and we have Rubina who say, I live in Scarborough, in Ontario. So this is funny. But we have also,
she knows how to spell it then. That's good.
Yeah, we have it in the chat. So and yeah, it's always a great episode from Columbus.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so cool. So Julie, I will have to push you out of the screen, but stay in the virtual studio so we can chat after. Awesome. We start fast, but we can chat a bit after.
Sure.
Yeah, so everyone say bye to Julie.
Bye. Bye,
everybody. Yahoo! Hey, everyone, thank you so much for watching. We have a wonderful time all together live, connecting the community. And yes, if you want to join us this weekend, we have this workshop coming about ventriloquism. Yes, it's on Sunday at 10 a.m. So yeah, please join us and have a look. It's on the Patreon page. We have the link. I share it on my wall, so you can find it. And yes, for sure, we will appreciate to be all together on a big Zoom chat and have Satyajit to share his stuff about ventriloquism. And if you need help about promoting your art, sharing social media marketing stuff, we also offer some service. So have a look on that too. It's part of all the Patreon stuff, so you can read about what we do as coaching to help artists. Especially right now, we need to keep promoting what we do, and yes, for sure, things will get wonderful and better. And yes, so everyone stay safe, and yeah, have a wonderful evening. And we have other episode coming, so stay tuned for the Puppet Podcast. Good night.